Thank you, Nate.
Wow. This is the thanks I get.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be a good friend. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Why not telling us?
Cool. I'm telling you now.
Leaving us out of the conversation.
But bringing everyone else in.
Yeah.
It's not a team, Andy.
I'm the team.
Oh, alright.
First started when I was a kid. My dad worked in IT, so he always had a computer around, and so I got into early 90s, got into old Sierra adventure games like Space Quest and King's Quest and Police Quest, those games, and some early real early days Formula 1 games and MotoGP games. And then from there, as I was growing up, I played a lot of early first-person shooters, Doom, and then Duke Nukem 3D and Quake, and I always had mates who had a 64 or a PlayStation. Played a lot of Tony Hawk's 2, and then thank you, appreciate it. And then slowly dipped off the gaming radar. So all my gaming knowledge is sort of about 15 years out of date, but I'm hoping that'll bring some sort of an interesting perspective tonight.
I think it will.
Yeah, that's me and you both, because I stopped as well.
Glad to hear it. Yeah. What was the last game you played?
Actually, no. It's been recent in terms of casual gaming. So the last game was FIFA 19 with my brother. Mm-hmm. But to actually sit down and have a console was probably about 5 years ago.
Right.
So then we're kind of on we've played some games before, Outlook, whereas these guys are bang out.
They're really into it.
Whoa, I wouldn't say bang out.
How's Sekiro going?
Bro.
Yeah,
I'm such a victim.
Bang out. So yeah, we're
glad to hear it. We'll hold the fort here. It was the two of us combined almost make one of them. We make another.
Well, there was a BAFTA Games ceremony not too long ago, and the greatest game of all time, God of War, cleaned up.
Are we checking this out?
God of War. Of course. It won Best Game, Best Music, Best Narrative, Audio Achievement, and Best Performer, with Jeremy Davis winning the award for The Stranger, aka Boulder, aka The GOAT. So, that is quite a jump from, Half-Life 2 and Tony Hawk's.
Yeah, Half-Life the first one, I didn't get into Half-Life 2. That's been you for me, man. Into it. We were talking about God of War at work the other day. It sounded like a pretty intense game.
It is. It requires all of you, really.
All of you, as a person.
You need to be completely plugged in into that game. It's not a game that you could pick up, play for an hour, and then put down.
I shouldn't. I wouldn't hang out with my niece and bust out some God of War like we do.
No, it'll be fun. It's a great family game.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
excellent.
Really good.
Yeah, I'll tell our dad. He'll be chuffed.
They're the most functional family unit I'm aware of. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there's a father in that family.
It's a start. An event that's happening at the Science Museum. It's going on until 22nd of April, actually. It's called Power Up, and it's basically like a big exhibition of video games that kind of takes you throughout the ages of video games. There's a lot of interactive stuff, and it's a pretty great experience.
It's really good. What was your highlight?
Okay, so there's this one setup which was really impressive, especially considering I hadn't played games or been really involved in games for so long. They set up a bunch of video game consoles in a row and did a history of Tomb Raider from the first one, the PS1 one, all the way through to whatever the newest one is, which I'm told is actually not even that new, even it is a couple of years old. But when I, comparing those two, it's unthinkable. The first thing, looking at the new Tomb Raider, it is just, balls to the wall insane. The graphics are, another level. And maybe this sounds really lame, and everyone's like, whatever, that's, 2015, man. But to me, it was just, unbelievable. And to see the progression from the first Tomb Raider, which I guess was, 95, 96-ish, to then go through to something like that over a relatively short period of time was, amazing. I liked that. Also, I didn't realize that Tomb Raider had that it was cool, that it was a cool game. I felt that Tomb Raider was I thought it had disappeared.
No.
I didn't know they were still making them.
Yeah, there was a bit of a resurgence with the single player games. There was a lot of noise from, I think it was EA. they were saying that single player games were dying, and people were only caring about multiplayer games like Call of Duty and Fortnite.
You just want to sell the loot boxes, man. Don't listen to you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, for me that's a weird idea. Again, being a bit out of the gaming world, I miss the growth of like online RPGs and like mass, like I guess broadband, which totally shifted the nature of multiplayer gaming. But for me, like a single player game like Half-Life or like old adventure games is like, that's what it's about. That is the heart of gaming, and it's crazy to imagine there's a world where people can see that dying out, and that's just not so much of a thing anymore. Playing games is not about being social. It's about being like cooped up in your bedroom as a lonely 7-year-old and playing through adventure game after adventure game while all your friends, or the people that could potentially be friends, run around outdoors in the sun kicking around footballs.
You can be a social gamer.
You can. Maybe I'm just a bit bitter, It says more about me as a 7-year-old than it does about gaming as a whole.
Where the designer was going, I didn't finish the game because it just got to a bit where I couldn't. I just got to like lots of malware and viruses, which was really true with the noise. So I think that might have been like the boss level, but apart from that, I see where they're going with it. But they just worked on like, I guess, engagement with the player. I think like maybe they've got something good on their hands. I don't know, it's still very like prototype, I guess, at the moment. But it was alright.
Prototype is definitely a word that I took away from. Sounds right for what it was like last year. It's cool that people are doing that. It's interesting that people that have these like video gaming, like taking video gaming on a bit of a, almost like treating it as an art form, like a modern art form. And it's nice that people have the ability to do that, and that video games are getting mainstream enough a thing to have these weird offshoots, these niche offshoots. It's not always super fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm glad that we are getting more and more events dedicated to gaming. I think as an industry, it just needs more commercial respect.
Something to say.
Y'all hear something? Sounds like toxic masculinity.
It's not toxic anything.
Toxic
Toxic
cynicism.
gamerlinity.
Do you want to comment now or later, Troy? Then?
I mean,
I'm done. I want to hear what you have to say.
So obviously, all of this was part of the London's Game Festival, which is fine. Which I thought would have been better. No. From the pictures and everything, we just assumed the whole event would have been buzzing, more people going. But there were some events, it made no sense. I mean, we went to the summit. Was it summit?
The Hubble Summit?
Yeah, the Hubble Summit on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
Was it the AI talk, or was it the one before that we basically fell asleep in?
You know what? I don't even remember the talk.
Do you know how bad that is, falling asleep in the talk? Because it was just, and it was the whole room, you could feel the room wasn't feeling it, people were getting up and leaving. And I was just there at the point thinking, these tickets cost someone, what, 150, 100... We went to see so there's 13 developers from Italy. I feel for them because they probably thought they're getting a bigger crowd too. We went to see one. It's almost like he's never seen another person before. That's how empty
Was he the AR guy?
Yep.
Yeah, he was so excited.
So excited. For me, my issues was it was on a Tuesday. It was on a random Tuesday and Wednesday. When we went into the talks, for a lot of them, I didn't know who the audience was. The events are dotted around, but I don't think they were marketed properly. It's Easter now, and I feel most of these events would have fitted in well for the 2 weeks for kids for Easter.
That's a very good point.
I think something like this, which was indie, would have been good, especially if there's parents who take 2 weeks off. So where it started, it makes sense, because Easter, again... But the whole festival as a whole, it felt disjointed.
Let's say London Games Festival, you want to do everything. Like, you've got EJs, you've got the BAFTAs, you've got this. Like, it's really tough to choose. And I think maybe people didn't have a choice, and they just kind of picked, maybe EGX, because I went EGX, and it was amazing. Like, it was packed. People. But
I feel like you know what you're getting, because they're gonna do one in October. They do it all the time.
Yeah, that's true. So actually, that is true. But I mean, like you said, like the marketing needs to be better, because I mean, there's EGX, which you know what you're getting, and it's gonna be great. Or you can go to this and like you're not quite sure. Yeah. But yeah, no, EGX was amazing. So like, for me, I want to be a developer at some point. Went in, and Troy, again, you're right. I know what I'm getting into. First talk, so you want to be a games developer. That was an hour. Next talk, what to expect in your 6 months of game design. Amazing. And then I just went like to like the indie part of it, and I realized, I can see why this is 3 days. 1 day was not enough. So I'm going there, I'm talking to like devs, I'm talking to designers, I'm hearing about these really great games, which I'm going to go back to. But then once I've done all that, literally I thought, yeah, I've made quite a dent in EGX. I leave, and then I realised there's a whole other side full of like Xbox games, other indie games that are like a lot further in development, and I was like, wow, I haven't wasted my day, but I've missed out on like quite a bit.
Right.
So some really cool devs, like one guy, I think their studio is called Pocket Money Games. Really cool. Like, so there's this whole thing called like crunch in the industry, and it's where, do you know about crunch?
Afraid not.
So Cameron, say about crunch. It's where
Let me tell you about crunch.
it's where you need to meet a certain deadline, and maybe there's not enough time, so people have to work ridiculous hours, maybe 11, 12 at night. I think with Rockstar, it got so bad that families were like asking the companies to send their loved ones home because it was ridiculous. Yeah.
Sometimes we get that at the charity as well. It's just have so many payments to take and so many meetings to organise.
Yeah, I feel like you're talking about us specifically.
I know, just broadly speaking. But this isn't a charity admin podcast, is it?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine like the process that goes into making a game must just be such an enormous team and such a huge amount of effort that would just be mental. And the release dates are like.
Yeah.
We had a discussion with Marvin quite a while ago, and he was saying how when it comes to games, you have to have a release date, and that date can't really be moved. If you move it, you're kind of losing money, and that's why crunch is very, very prominent in the gaming industry. But it's also something that I think needs to go.
If you ever get a chance to play VR, play VR. So I didn't realise, right? So I didn't realise with VR, the thing is you can completely lose track of time because there is no time. And all it was was a strategy game.
Yeah.
It was a simple strategy game, like a chess game.
Yeah,
it would have been the same one.
Revamped chess.
But you just felt so immersed. I kept looking around to see if I could see anything else. It's just the whole world.
And it's like the little things. So like when you click a button, like you feel the feedback. Like you see the button light up. You can feel your finger, your virtual finger. It's like it's so good. Like recently, I think Sony did a thing where like they released the Iron Man trailer for like VR. People were like, it's so good, it's so good. I watched it and I was like, I don't really care.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine the VR. Like, it didn't make sense to me. But when you play VR, it just kind of opens up your world to VR. It's like, okay, this is great, but this in VR would be amazing because like Troy said, you really lose track of time. It just feels like you're in there. It feels like this is my hand. It feels like
your life becomes the game.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what's been so slow? VR's been around for like a few years now. How come, as far as I'm aware, at least, it hasn't really taken off as a medium or like?
Well, it kind of has a little bit because, you've got like two paths, I guess, with easy paths. You can like get a PlayStation, get the headset and everything, or you can go with like more expensive alternatives. Like I think one of them's called Oculus Rift, and that's really expensive. But with PlayStation,
it's like a dedicated device itself.
Yeah, pretty much. But with PlayStation, I think like you pay maybe £230 and you get like 5 games and the headset and like you're good to go. So it's a lot more easier to go down that route. And I think they've sold like 4 or 5 million copies of that. So people are like starting to play VR, but I guess it's not something that. It's just like it's a thing because it's not really a multiplayer thing yet. I believe it's more like you go in there, you sit in there. It's really immersive. You couldn't like play with your friends unless you're like online or something, or I don't know. Maybe you've got like the actual Oculus, or you're doing something different. You couldn't play Skyrim with a friend or something. So I guess it just needs more games that are more multiplayer friendly to get people in there. And it's still a high price point, like £200.
A lot of the stuff that I've played VR, and I've never played it like at home or anything. It's always been like a VR themed cafe or something. They always tend to be sort of little weird, almost non-games. Like they're just experiences. Even like the sort of zombie shooters feel a bit like gameplay wise and level structure wise. They're pretty old school in a way. It almost feels like you're just playing this old like a structure of a game just on an incredible new technology.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like you don't have anything with a real.
It's not built for VR, basically.
Yeah, not that I know of anyway. Yeah, maybe I'm a bit out of the loop, but
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really seen anything with real world building that like makes you invested in the game itself, the story of the game, in the way that like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I get you. Because
Mhm.
I don't think so. The one we were playing, I get what you mean. It was cartoon based. It was a bit easy to just look around and see it. But yeah, it was blocky. I mean, the graphics were decent. I don't think it would be something you'd say at God of War level, where you're wielding axes and the world looks how it looks in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think someone else was saying it's about your rooms. So if you've got space in your room to play VR, that's the other selling point. But I get what you mean, because I know there's new games, but even as you were saying, is there any that's kind of stand out graphics wise, or was the Iron Man one stand out graphics wise,
For me,
or it felt basic?
Yeah, exactly. It didn't feel like I was actually Tony Stark. It felt like discount Tony Stark.
Yeah, I think that's what
Yeah, like,
And
yeah,
Anthony
great.
Stark.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I need to play this. There's a game called like Astrobot Rescue Squad or something, and that's been like made like in a VR setting, and I think it was up for one of the BAFTA awards. So that's a really good VR game that I still need to try, and it uses VR really well. So
Maybe that's what it takes. The platform needs a game to sell
Yeah,
it in the
yeah,
same way that
exactly.
like Tony Hawk's shifted
Yeah.
PlayStations, or like Mario 64 shifted
they need a
64.
mascot, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the VR mascot.
Yeah. Or maybe that could be Sonic. Maybe that could be his game to
Yeah, God, you
get things
imagine
working
Sonic
again.
on VR. You get
Yeah,
like
that
you'd be
speed.
vomiting all over your lounge
Jesus.
room.
Yeah, that's true actually. Might not work. But hey, look at it. Nothing Sonic has done has worked. So maybe
Whoa, whoa.
I'm not
Nothing
wrong.
Sonic has tried in the last 10 years has worked.
But that's what I mean. Come on, man. Come on.
Have you still got 90 Sonic?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, remaster the Dreamcast. Where's that Dreamcast Mini?
Dude, that's gonna happen.
They promising
so.
that?
No.
Or is this just your theory?
It's my Christmas.
This is what you
wish
want.
list.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
I was saying just before, I am thinking about setting up a bit of a home, like entertainment setup. Literally putting a TV in front of my bed and buying a game console. I think what it'd take, like when I think about the games that really pulled me in as a kid. I'm thinking of like Half-Life or Metal Gear Solid. They're games that are like immersive and have quite an aspect of adventure to them. Even Half-Life, which is like a first-person shooter fundamentally, like what I loved about it was the story and the adventure. So I think it'd take something like that. I don't know what's out there. I mean, I guess you've got your giant games that exist as a world unto themselves, like Red Dead or I don't know, even the newer GTA games. But I don't know. What would you recommend? What would pull me back in?
They're gonna say God of War, don't they?
Yeah, aside from God of War, obviously.
No, I was gonna say Horizon Zero Dawn.
Horizon's okay. Do
Yeah.
you mind talking me through it a little bit? 'Cause I don't know
So it's a
this.
really cool narrative game. Well, it's more than a narrative game. It's got a great story, basically. The world's been absolutely obliterated because of mankind's negligence to look after it.
Oh, I like it already.
So, yeah.
That's good.
So you have to. So basically, it's weird. Like you're back in the hunter-gatherer times,
Mm-hmm.
but you've got really cool sci-fi tech that you just
Right.
kind of. What's the
Ooh.
word I'm looking for? That you just kind of like put together. It's like a really. You know when? What's the word I'm looking for?
MacGyver.
Yes, you kind of MacGyvered everything together. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You slapped it all together. So now like let's say your bow and arrow now like shoots like EMPs, like
Right.
blow off like components off of like machine. Basically, all the animals are like machines.
Okay.
So you've got like a massive T-Rex built out of machinery that's got like lasers and whatnot. That's just in the wild, and you kind of have to avoid it. So it's your T-Rex, but modernized. So it's a mix of the future and the past.
I'm sold.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.